It's only two bits.
Start again.
Escritt.
Escritt.
There you go.
Right, yeah, let's do that again.
Classic.
That was funny. Today's guest is Phill Escritt. He is the lead instructor and assessor at VMT. Welcome, Phill.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
Brilliant. So you've been at VMT for how long now?
Since the summer of 2020. On my birthday, weirdly enough, is when I started.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's good, though.
All right. My little birthday present.
Yeah, your birthday present.
But yeah, we've been going for, what are we now? Yeah, sort of coming up for our third year.
So did you start at the start of VMT?
Yes, literally at the very beginning. I was asked if I would set it up kind of as a little test run to see if it would work and be profitable. Spent the first 6 months tearing my hair out and trying to organise 1,000,001 things. And bit by bit, it's grown. And with that, more people have come to kind of help out. And now it's kind of like a fully functioning business where I'm not trying to do everything, which is nice. Which has given me a bit of breathing space to do other things. But yeah, it's gone from strength to strength, really, which is kind of cool.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's just rewind a bit there. Do you want to tell us a bit more about what VMT does and...
Okay, so they are basically a training provider. We're a LANTRA training provider. So all of the work that we do is based around LANTRA awards and qualifications. It is mainly for awards that are given within the land-based industry. So I say awards, it's more like qualifications for things that you need to do. In this day and age, with various regulations that are in place, training is obviously paramount. Some of that training would require a lot more than just kind of like a single day's course. They range from anything to do with the use of small tools or off-road vehicles right through to vastly more, how can I put it, qualifications that require a great deal more of training, basically for things like climbers in tree surgery scenarios where you may be dismantling trees with rope systems and rigging and chainsaw use and all the other complications that come with tree surgery and similar land-based industries. So, like I said, in this day and age, you've got to have those tickets to stay covered by insurance. Some people choose to do that training and some people don't choose to do that training. But in reality, you're generally not covered unless you've ticked every box that you're supposed to have ticked.
How can people do it if they've not done the course?
How could they be? Like, so a lot of people are you asking me as in like, how would people understand what to do if they hadn't done training?
Because it's like...
There's many ways that you can get into it. I mean, years ago, I didn't do training before I did all of it. I kind of started as an apprentice with a company and the guys let you have a go at little bits once you've seen. You don't start climbing the biggest, most epic trees. I talk about this from a tree surgery point of view because that's obviously historically what I've done. And you kind of started out climbing a little bit with some of the more experienced climbers. Every now and then they'd let you have a go with a chainsaw until you built a bit of experience. Yeah. And then when you got to a level where they thought you were quite good or a bit more confident, they'd send you in to do qualifications. But since I started work, nowadays, this sort of training is paramount before you've even started the job.
Yeah.
And so more and more people have to have done basic training before they even are allowed to do anything like that at work.
Well, you think that should be like an essential anyway, because it's not that. If they're dealing with chainsaws.
Exactly that. I don't want to be cynical about it, but at the end of the day, if you'd have an injury, there are regulations in place that state that if you haven't had training in that particular item, you shouldn't have been using that particular item. Therefore, you're not insured if something has gone wrong. Woe betide there's an accident or something is destroyed and you need to make a claim on the insurance. Yeah. The insurers are very good at finding every reason to get out of not paying, and not being qualified to do that particular thing you were doing is one of their get-out clauses. That might sound a bit cynical, but that's kind of how it is.
Okay, going back, how did you get into that industry? Because it's a very niche industry.
Yeah, it is a weird one. I don't think anybody ever set out, as far as I know, going, I want to be a tree surgeon. But for me, I'd finished school. I knew I wanted to do a job outside. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Okay. I'd seen this thing in a local college that was horticulture. And I thought, well, that's kind of like plants and being outside and landscapey kind of bits and pieces. I thought that might be all right because I quite like being outside. And that was as far as I thought. There was an afternoon called arboriculture, which I had no idea what that was. But instead of working, we played with chainsaws and climbed trees with ropes and harnesses, to which I thought, this is mad. Didn't actually know this was even a thing. Off the back of that, I ended up speaking to the lecturer from that bit and kind of did better in that than any of the other segments of the course because I really enjoyed it. I went to a specialist college in London, which back in the day was quite renowned for tree surgery. Completed that and then pestered a local company over and over again until I eventually got my foot in the door, expecting it to be straight away a kind of big, heroic tree climbing, great job that I was gagging to do. But in reality, spent probably the first 4 weeks dragging branches and thought this is a bit rubbish. And then little bit by little bit, they kind of let you have a go. But then it was kind of if they didn't break you in the first 4 weeks, then you probably got to go.
So is that what you think that they were actually trying to do?
It's pretty standard back then.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
If you dropped at dragging branches and got fed up with chipping all day long, then they probably thought that you wouldn't have what it takes to stick with the job. It's learning tree work from a learner or a trainee climber to a professional guy who actually knows what he's doing, who is worthwhile. It takes a really long time. And loads of people will go, oh, yeah, I've done it for a year. But in reality, most tree surgery firms that are taking on a climber that can do their own thing would probably be looking for a minimum of 3 or 4 years experience.
Really? Because it takes that long.
It's quite hard to get into. And most people are like, oh, yeah, it's just climbing trees. If they'd ever actually done it, you would realise there is vastly more to it than that. And without sounding stupid, every job is so different. You never know what you're going to be doing, from pruning a fruit tree to encourage more apple production, or dismantling some epic tree over someone's conservatory where any twig that you drop could smash glass. It's like the work is so varied. I've done stuff from... Yeah,
tell us the things that you have done.
Things like dismantling trees with cranes because you can't get anything in and you're attached to the hook and moved into the tree and the bits come out that are craned over to fitting lightning conductor systems in historic trees that want to be saved, and you're fitting a system of aerials and junction boxes that dissipate electricity, to fitting supportive cables to prevent ancient trees failing that want to be saved, to cutting out diseased parts of the trees, to reducing them because they're too big. It's so varied.
Yeah,
anyone I speak to about tree work is generally like, what?
Yeah, because you don't
trees
really...
for a living. What do you do?
Yeah, you just think people just cut trees.
There's anything that could ever be needed to be done from a customer point of view, from a health and safety point of view, what local councils deem to be suitable to manage their particular trees, where somebody has to go into that tree and climb something. Jesus, it could be rescuing a drone or a cat. Yeah. Sorry, that's happened. But like anything where somebody... You start off with the small stuff and work your way up. But a lot of people reach a point where they're kind of like, this actually isn't for me. When it starts to get a bit sketchy and the trees get bigger and the heights are further, some people reach a point where they're like, I'm kind of done with this, and then drop out of the way.
So what would you say made you stick it out?
Grief and abuse. I think I came from a world where if you didn't
get stuff done,
you got conkers thrown at you and you just got grief and you just did it. And it's not that I'm averse to falling out of a tree or I didn't get scared. I genuinely have days where I thought it was my last day.
Really?
And I'd come steaming out of the tree and be like, that's it, I'm done with tree work. I'm done with this. And then you would get down and you'd be like, well, I'm still alive. It probably wasn't that bad. I was probably making it worse. It's one of them. You're
panic mode.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm sure you'll meet some tree people that go, I don't know what you're on about. I never feel like that. I honestly can hold my hands up, and I have had days where I've absolutely cacked myself. And you kind of, your brain kicks in and you're like, right, this is here, that is there. What can go wrong? I've made arrangements for this. In reality, I'm probably doing this in the safest way I can.
Yeah.
But you're working at height, dangling on ropes, using saws, when trees can be quite unpredictable things.
Yeah.
Whether they've got fractures from wind damage or decay that you don't see. predictably unpredictable is probably a good word. And if you think like that, I suppose it's one of them. You can make it dangerous, or you can put things in place to back up anything that goes wrong, really, I suppose. But
so since we've been working with VMS and VMT, we've all learned within the office so much about what you guys do. I genuinely didn't even know half of these courses that you guys do.
Why would you know that?
I know.
Realistically, people are always surprised at what we do, but unless you have had a tree that has required some form of tree surgery or arboricultural work, probably, why would you know?
Yeah.
It's not like a commonly known job.
VMT's got its own grounds, haven't it, where you train everyone.
Yeah.
What are the courses that you're doing there?
So we started off with one. We have the use of a local estate, which kind of is a sort of mutual agreement, I suppose. We do a little bit for them, but at the same time, they're brilliant for us, and they obviously let us use lots of land. The great thing about it is it's actually a working forest. So a huge part of our training is all based around felling and what would be classed as ground-based chainsaw work. So we're not just cutting things down willy-nilly. It is an actual forest that was planted 40 or 50 years ago with the intention for it to be timber the timber production is the point of its growth.
Yeah.
And they would have people in cutting down certain bits of the woodland. I'll try not to bore you to death, but they have a system in place with a row of different trees. They go through, they're called racks, they're in the woodland.
Yeah.
They plant them all quite close together, and then they're thinned out. Different species are thinned out, and those different species would be used for certain things. Some of them get chipped up and put into kind of biomass, which is a way that they use to create energy when they burned it, and that powers a lot of the estate, some of the houses, the electricity, what have you, and other parts are sold off to the electricity board to do whatever they want to do with it. So my point is, we are performing a job, not just destroying woodlands for the fun of it. They were always planted with that intention, which I quite like. So that's the estate side, where we do a lot of tree work and kind of forestry-based stuff. And then since then, the site, or rather not just the site, sorry, we have other grounds where that has expanded into all kinds of landscape industry stuff. I get less involved with that, but it will be more things to do with small tools and landscape and maintenance kind of stuff, from vehicles that might trim banks to strimmers to hedge cutting courses and different bits and pieces like that. But then also there's a side that does training, which I class as more like the indoor stuff, behind the desk kind of work.
So you as the lead instructor and assessor, what are your roles within VMT?
So when I started, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Now as the lead instructor, I've kind of moved on a bit from teaching a lot of the courses. I still do a few, but we have obviously grown. So I've got more instructors now that are in-house. I do bits of assessments for them. We also get external assessors in, but I will assess a lot of the courses that are run there. So the courses that end with a specific assessment with the end to a qualification, I will look at. I kind of play location scout. I'll go around and find the next sort of generation of woodlands as we're running out of one, making sure everything's sort of tidy and sweet and the estate is happy. Just kind of, I don't want to say milling about, but I am milling about in different places to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Do you enjoy it, Phill?
Yes. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, when I first started, if you'd have asked me that in the first 6 months, I'd have probably said no.
Would you quit? Was you going to quit?
I was pretty close.
Was you?
Yeah, I knew, don't get me wrong, I knew we were setting something like that up, that if it wasn't an absolute nightmare in the first 6 months, I probably was doing something wrong.
Yeah. Was it just you and Helen then?
No, it was just me. Helen came into it a little bit later.
Right, okay.
So when it started, and don't get me wrong, we weren't doing anywhere near as much as we are now, but I would be answering the phones, visiting the website people, taking calls or advising people on courses, teaching the courses, sorting out assessors, going and finding areas to work the sites, going back and clearing the site up afterwards. It was just mental, like absolutely mad.
On your own?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was
no wonder wanted to quit.
No,
that must have been
horrible.
intense.
It was really intense. Like it was mad because I'd come from being self-employed, and that was pretty mad, and it was constant. And you'd always have people going, "Oh, when you're self-employed, you can do your own thing." I was like, "You're having a laugh."
No,
you
can't.
Like labourer.
Can you work?
Exactly. The guy went out and did all the quoting. You'd go and look at the jobs and stuff. You were answering emails, dealing with customers. It was just non-stop. And I thought, well, employed life might be a bit more chilled out, but it was mental.
Was it?
And it was non-stop.
So what made you stay?
I'm not really sure. I think just because I've been given a task And I don't want to be the person who starts something and goes, I can't be arsed with that.
And was it really stressful?
Yeah, it really stressed me out. It was horrible. I hated it. But like, I knew that it was a project. I think there's two reasons. One, if somebody had given me something to do, I wasn't just going to walk away from it, because I'm not that person that would be like, well, I'm done with this, sod it. I'd kind of been given a task, so I knew how to achieve something. I partly felt that there was a big part missing in the quality of training. I sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but I knew I could do it quite well.
Yeah.
And I know that there aren't a vast amount of training companies in the area that we're in that I felt were really good. And so I thought, I want this to work. I want this to be somewhere that people come to, and I want to have had a little bit about the involvement of it, because that kind of gave me a little bit of a big head that I'd helped start it. And I love that. So that was cool. Plus, I don't feel old and decrepit yet, but I was quite old for a contract climber.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, go on. Let's elaborate on that.
I'm well aware that everything was becoming a massive effort. I used to move around the tree like a sprightly monkey, and now I'm a bit like a lumbering old gorilla.
Is it usually young people that go into 100%. The industry?
Yeah, it kicks your ass. It takes, if you're a climber at commercial level, it's exhausting on your body. It's like it's hard work anyway, and your hard work is the same, but dangling from a rope. So you've never got a floor to put your feet on. Your core strength is immense. I know that since I've been training, I've got ridiculously unfitter. Like,
really?
There's wobbly bits appearing. I was pretty solid before.
You'd think that you'd get turned up doing that.
Yeah, no, you do. Well, I mean, now I'm instructing it.
I've
definitely, I feel like I've got way unfitter. I was climbing every single day, all the time, and you're always twisting about on ropes and using every muscle because you're dangling.
Yeah.
And I used to have hard days and think to myself, people pay good money at the gym for this, and I'm getting paid. This is quality. But yeah, I've noticed that my stamina levels and fitness, and I attempt to go to work with some of the other lads sometimes, and it kills me. But like I said, I don't feel that old, but I was aware that I was moving to, I'm 48 now, and I've got mates who are in their 50s who are still doing this, and they're broken. There's like waiting for new knees, and they've got slipped discs and bits of their backs being fused together. And so part of me was excited to start a new, this is going back to your original question. So part of me was excited to start a new thing, and I felt there was a need for it. But at the same time, I was a bit like, I kind of need a bit of an exit strategy for this. And it's great. That's another thing just popped into my head. Another reason it's cool. I still get to play being a tree surgeon, but not doing it intently. And it's cool when there's people who are a bit worried and panicked in trees, and I'm teaching them, and I can still mess around with my kit and go up in trees and play it.
Do a lot of people get scared when they're doing it? Because I would. Like, I've seen you guys in action, and honestly, I wouldn't be able to do it.
You don't get me wrong, you don't start off with epic stuff. Nobody comes on a course and I go, here you go, climb that 100-foot beast. You start off with something relatively small, and the training is all about learning to use the kit safely. And once you've learned how to use the kit safely, you can be unleashed and progress into bigger and bigger things as you gain confidence. That's what it's all about. But yeah, some people freak out. I've had some people on courses by sort of day 3, they're like, this is not for me. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Some people turn up and they're more portly than others and can't get up a tree, which they'll kind of look at them when they first rock up on a course, and I'll be like, you're probably going to struggle with this. Some people just don't realise what it's going to be. But yeah, you do have to be physically fit.
I can imagine though, you're going to have to be physically fit.
It does take it out of you. And when you've done it a really long time, things start to hurt. Yeah. I just thought by the time I was 50, I should have probably got out of it before I'd carried on working and broken myself entirely, to be quite honest.
You're not 50 though yet.
No. What I mean was, if I got to 50,
if I missed something, is he lying?
If I'd got to 50, right, and then I was like, I'm going to end that now. I'm going to do something else. I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So this was kind of my gradual trickle-in process. I'd already been doing a little bit of training for other companies, and I quite enjoyed that. It was good fun. So when I was approached to start this up, I was like, well, yeah, I've kind of done a little bit of it. Do I want to do it full-time? I'm not really sure. And then I did it full-time, and the first 6 months was a nightmare. And now I'm properly doing it full-time. I've kind of settled into it a bit, and I genuinely enjoy it. It's cool. It is good.
Yeah, and you and Helen make a brilliant team.
Yeah, she can do all the stuff that I don't, and vice versa. She's quite a good ship steerer is what I always call her. Like, I know what needs to be done, and I know the requirements for courses and what sort of people we'll use and what we need. and how to make those courses run in what area of land and what trees we might need. She wouldn't really do that bit. But where the company goes in a direction and dealing with people who I don't want to deal with, she's really good at.
Right.
So from that respect, it's quite a good team.
You've got the best of both worlds now. You've been in instruction, you can still go onto the trees and stuff like that. Where is it next for you?
For me personally, I'm not even sure at the moment, but for the company, which is obviously where I'm at, and I want it to continue growing in what it offers. So when it first started, I could only really kind of offer what I knew about. And what I knew about was most things tree surgery related. And in time, we've gathered more instructors who've come in and advised us on different stuff. And then when courses are asked for, if it's something we don't know a great deal about, there's great backing from Lantra. Lantra can provide us with instructors for other areas or assessors on other things, and we'll bring them in and we can make arrangements to grow that area. And bit by bit, other things have kind of been added of what we can teach that obviously increases our client base.
Yeah.
We're always cautious of making sure we've kind of nailed the bit that we're doing. I never want to be in a position where we half-heartedly try something and then move to the next thing. And it's got to be a bit of a gradual process.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stumbling along, being an effort at absolutely everything.
Yeah.
But potentially there are so many different angles we can go down, and there's more things to do with machinery in this day and age. Like in my life, things have gone from a lot of manpower to like some seriously mechanized setups, which can do lots of things that we always used to do by hand.
Really?
I always feel that the kind of tree surgery world is a little bit behind other areas where things like construction and agriculture moved more towards machinery. We were quite limited in the tree world, and now there's people inventing all kinds of crazy pieces of kit that reach up really far and cut off branches, so there's less need for climbers. Different systems of work have been invented, and bit by bit with all of those new machines and new ways of doing things come new qualifications and different bits of training, which I want to grasp and go into and just keep expanding on, really.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So it's like you've got to... It's with everything in it, really, where it's like the latest things that come out, and then there's legalisation along it. So you've got to stick to that. So it's like a continuous learning for you.
It's just evolution. It's just simply evolution of the industry and the world itself. Things are clearly changing. If I keep teaching stuff in the same way that I always used to do it, you fall by the wayside. So it's a bit of an odd one that I've come out of that industry in a way that I felt fully in touch with how things were done, because I was always working with different people and different companies and using different machinery and all that sort of stuff. Now that's still progressing whilst I'm here, and I need to keep pulling in to find stuff out about the latest thing that's going on or the latest piece of machinery. It's cool I meet so many people that I feel like I'm still kind of in the loop.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pretend I'm still doing
you
the
have
job
to learn
anymore.
as well.
Yeah, of course.
Especially if like the new courses coming out or the new legalisation against the courses. You have to learn that then.
Exactly that. And it's cool because with all those things, I gather more funny little stories. And when you're teaching stuff, you've always got to have
Tell us a funny story, Phill. Come on.
Don't put me on the spot like that. I'll come up with one in a minute.
Come on.
My point being is when I have to, this is just one example. I have to teach a lot of stuff about health and safety. And I remember when I was at work, I used to think health and safety executive was like a group of people in an office who were just making my life difficult. And I just was like, can't be done with any of that. And that's how most workers think.
Okay.
Now I have to teach it. I understand it a little bit more. And I understand that these things are in place, yes, to keep you safe, but ultimately they're a bit of backing if something goes wrong to make sure you're insured. And I never really understood that bit before. And I don't think it's taught enough like that. So there'll be people that I will meet constantly that have funny anecdotes. I had a guy not that long ago who'd said to me, I've been paying insurance into my company for 10 years. He was like, this year they've asked me for all my qualifications. He was like, I'm going to change my insurance company. I was like, mate, the fact that they've asked you that means that they probably have some intention of paying you if something's gone wrong. Everybody understands that if you buy insurance on a car but don't have MOT and tax, you're not insured because you're not meant to be on the road. This is the same sort of stuff. If you had a serious accident with a chainsaw and you didn't have a qualification or a ticket to show that you were competent in using it and you needed to make a claim, the insurance company would straight away be like, well, your industry best practice states that you should have done this training. You haven't done that training, so should you have been using that saw? And a lot of people don't get this. My point being, what you said earlier, the more people I meet, the more I hear these little stories that make me get it. And useful to meet those people because I've always got some little anecdote to relate it back to something, and people are like, ugh. You can see these light bulb moments when I'm telling them stuff. They know their industry and they know they just want to climb trees or they just want to use chainsaws, and I was that person. I didn't want to get involved with all that paperwork and all that, what I considered nonsense, but it's a thing that needs to be in place or you ain't covered. And I just understand it a bit more, and I've met more people that has affected now. What
would you say the biggest challenges are in your industry?
Loads.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's tricky. I don't know. There's too many angles on this. Challenges.
What have you found challenging then?
I was going to say, depending on what area you come into the industry, anybody who has gone from the bottom and worked their way up as a climber, there are all kinds of challenges to deal with of just getting your head round doing the job. Challenges are wanting to do things correctly and by the book, and courses being expensive, and different areas that you want to go down that you may want to go into. Like I said, you want to go into a different avenue of what you do, but you can't because you haven't got the funding behind you.
I was just going to mention the funding because there's actually funding now available.
Yes. So the Forestry Commission had released a few months ago, they released a lot of funding to try and encourage more people to get into the industry. As the years have gone by, less and less people seem to be getting into the industry, and as the world is becoming more environmentally friendly, they're trying to encourage more people to get into stuff of the management of trees. So like right now, it's kind of an in job, if you like, but it's expensive to get into. The kit is expensive. The qualifications are expensive. But yeah, like you said, the Forestry Commission have just provided a ton of funding. I think it was about £750,000. I could be wrong, don't quote me. And anybody that wanted to do something that was part of their professional development or part of qualifications to gain them to do something else, they could apply for this funding. They don't have to pay it back. And
do they not have to pay it back?
No, it's not.
That's brilliant.
It's funding to give you training in what you want to do. And it covers pretty much everything that we teach.
Did you have a lot of cluster of people coming forward?
Huge amount as soon as it was done. But we were really lucky because there aren't, we were one of, there's a few around the country, but we were one of the training companies who was involved with being able to get the grants for the paying, to pay for the guys to do their training. So quite a few people in our area came through us. And yeah, it was really cool. And we've got like a real mixed bag of people, which I quite enjoy. Yeah. I like meeting a mixed variety of people. You've got everybody from like estate managers to people who are young upstarts coming into the job who wanted to get more but just couldn't.
Yeah.
Some people quite simply would be, I've got this contract coming up and they want me to have this qualification. I need to get it done ASAP. So other people had got no idea and never really tried it, but were like, oh, I quite fancy that, but didn't want to pay it. And they've gone on to do other things within forestry and tree work, even within a matter of months of having those qualifications. So it's opened a lot of doors for people who may not have had the opportunity to do those things and get into the industry.
Because of the cost of it. That's good, though. So tell me, Phill, how did you get into this industry? Oh, let's go back to the real... let's go back to the start. Tell us how you've started out in your career. Okay. So, yeah, like I said earlier, it was a bit of an odd one. I'd gone to college after doing a horticultural course and discovering arboriculture. I really didn't know what it was. It meant I didn't have to go to work, normal work. I didn't like the idea of writing stuff and using a pen or a computer, I should say. And yeah, it just basically meant I was climbing trees and playing with chainsaws, and I loved it. I thought, this is mad. So I'd pestered this company eventually after I'd been to college and done a few bits and pieces, and I ended up working for them. And I started there late 90s, and I was there for about 7 years. So I kind of started off just dragging sticks. I'll tell a lie, my first ever day, I actually had to rake up conkers. What? What? I'll tell you this. So I actually took my daughter conker picking the other day. Right. Well, the first job I ever did, there were a load of experienced tree surgeons reducing horse chestnut trees. Every branch they moved on, thousands of conkers fell out. And the company I worked for was worried that people in the park would fall on the conkers and sue. So my job was to rake up conkers with a potato fork, which is a stupidly heavy thing, because the guy said I needed building up because I was too small. So actually, for the first few days, I was raking conkers with this stupidly heavy thing. Anyway, that didn't break me. So I stayed there for a bit longer, dragging branches, and bit by bit, I would get a go. So like, I was really lucky that I worked with brilliant guys. All the guys there were really, really good, and they'd let me have a go at little stuff that was like way beyond my capabilities. If we had, I remember some of the first jobs, we'd have
really large cedar trees. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're the ones that have kind of like the plates, and you always see them in parks. They've got kind of like levels of growth, if that makes sense. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. They're big spready trees, just big spready trees.
I'm really thinking into that.
Scott, don't worry, I'll show you a picture later. But anyway, they're big spready trees that were way beyond my capabilities, but you'd have several really good climbers in them, and they'd give me a branch. They'd be like, right, that's your project for the day. And I'd spend half the day getting up this thing, and then another half a day getting out onto the end of a branch and spending a few hours trying to reduce a tree where you can't see the branches because the top is covered in greenery and you can't see anything. That'd be like my mini project for the day. And so bit by bit, I got to learn stuff. And then from there, over the 7 years, I'd gone from lowly stick dragger to one of their crew leaders. And then we had a series of guys who were in charge of the crews who were like lead climbers. Did that. I then got the opportunity, long story short, this bit, through somebody I knew starting up at something where they needed a group of freelance self-employed climbers. So he was kind of poked me in the direction of that. I was like, yeah, I quite like the idea of this. Being a freelancer sounds kind of cool. So I left that company and started doing a bit of freelance work as a climber, just operating from a van with kind of a few basic bits of kit that I could do my own thing. So when I say freelance, that was like I was a climber rather than somebody who owned a company. I didn't have a truck and a chipper.
So did people just used to ring you?
Yes. So other tree surgery companies would ring me to come and help out on jobs that, I don't know, were a bit more complex. Quite bad, doing something dumb.
Is that through working up the trees?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually up a tree. I just managed to...
Come on.
I managed to fell a tree on myself, which is pretty good. I can't say that when I'm the instructor now, can I? But it was fully blasé. All it was, and I could go into this in great detail because it's a good story, but we haven't got time for the whole thing, and I can't do a long story short. But in a nutshell, I was felling 4 not particularly big trees in a confined space, and I was being particularly cocky about not getting out of the way. The last one twizzled off at a funny angle and came back and went across my leg and snapped both bones in me tibia and fibia. Sorry.
I bet you've seen loads of things like this, though.
Yeah, I have seen quite a few. Yeah. But that basically put me on my arse for 6 months. So I had a lot of work done to this leg. I've still got like metal in it from ankle to knee.
You can still climb and things like that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good. They said it wouldn't be, but it's fine. For about 6 months, I didn't do a lot because I'd had like quite a major operation on it, so I couldn't do a great deal. And that kind of sat me on my arse and made me think about what I was going to do. And I was like, I'm just working flat out here. It was mental. Like, it was great. Got on really well with him, the guy who ran it. But it was madness. There was too much going on. And I thought, I want to get back into doing a variety of stuff and working for different people. That was 2006. And then started doing freelancing again, but properly. And then I started working for about 15 different companies on a regular basis.
Is that through freelancing still?
Yeah, literally, which was cool. I loved it. It was, I sound like an idiot here, but secretly, I loved the heroicness of it. And I had to try and be humble. But I used to think it was really cool that there would be a company waiting for me to turn up because there was nobody there that could do the job. And I would swan in and do the bit. And it was like I got all the kind of glory part of the job. And then I'd go home again. It was brilliant. And I really liked it. And it was cool. And I did that for about 10 years, just that.
Yeah.
And then that takes us to about 2016, where I'd started kind of not infiltrating, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of adding in a few other little bits and pieces, still all related to tree work, but I started doing inspections of equipment, which is a whole other thing I won't go into. I started doing a little bit of training. I'd done a little bit of the college to get me foot in the door for the training side of things, which I really enjoyed doing. Another friend and I kind of got together with a couple of vehicles where we'd do little private jobs together, but I'd still do bits of freelance work. So I had this real mixed bag and it was quite enjoyable and every day was really different. So I'd always maybe train 1 week of the month, a few days of private work, a few days of freelancing, a few days of inspections. It was just super varied, but all tree work based. And yeah, that then kind of led me to where I am today. And I was doing more and more training. And then this place set up, they contacted me and VMT is fully fledged and here now.
Where do you see VMT in the future? What are the plans for that?
Bigger than it is now.
Yep.
Only because we have so many more things to add.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been really conscious of not not running before we can walk. I just need to nail every aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And looking back over those 3 years, it's already gone from 2 or 3 chainsaw related courses that we were running to every single chainsaw course known to man, of which there are many.
Yeah, you do more
related
courses
and aerial stuff. But I want to move down more towards the mechanised route. There is a lot more potential for training on machinery. There's so many specialist pieces of machinery now. We're already doing quite a few of those things. I personally feel it's a little bit more aimed at the landscape kind of area with the machinery that they use for vegetation management machines and pieces of kit. There is a lot that we've done obviously already that we've covered with tree surgery training and stuff to do with other areas of arboriculture and forestry. I want to move more towards the mechanised route of things where I need to get more specialists in. We have the use of quite a lot of specialist bits of machines that are set up for that job. I want to get more involved with that because it is kind of the future as far as I'm concerned. But like I said, there's many angles off that. I'd like to get more involved with utilities work. We have avoided sort of utilities stuff up until now and gone specifically with arboriculture and forestry.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn in an area that I don't know a huge deal about, which is the utility side of things, which is a continuing growing sort of subsection of arboriculture, if you like. So that's another one I need to cover. And just appeal to more people from more angles of what we're already doing, really.
Is there different levels of courses that people come in and do?
Yeah, loads. So you can start on a level 2 and work your way up to a level 6.
Right. All right, okay.
So some of them get quite technical. Some of them are more practical based. Some of them are more classroom based. So the classroom-based ones are kind of moving into the world of consultancy.
Yeah.
Maybe even expert witness or other forms of inspectors.
Wow.
So different managers who might be, I don't know, looking at scoping works or whatever would be going down those lines where they're learning more about issues you'd find within trees and faults and learning to spot problems that occur and things that are likely to be future issues, down to completely other angle where people want to progress and become better at what they do, climbing trees.
So some people can actually come for a course and then come back when they want to level up.
Yeah, 100%. You can, depending on what you have, there's always a prereq, well, not always, but a lot of the time there'll be a prerequisite that you've got to have had before you've done one thing. So there's a natural path that you would take generally, depending on what avenue you want to go down in different learning. That could be from starting off as an operative working for a landscape company, learning to drive loads of different machines, and then you could sidestep to doing something like the Rolo Manager's course and work your way towards the managers. Yeah, so I didn't want to use the word branching off. It's a bit of a pun, but whatever you're doing in the land-based industry, we cover. Yeah. We set up courses that will be a natural pathway, but you could sidestep depending on how your role changed throughout your career, and everything you've done wouldn't be wasted. It just was a kind of a prerequisite or something you had done that led you on to where you are now. And
it's not just for individuals. This can be for corporate companies.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All sorts. So we have a huge variety of people that will come in on sometimes as a group basis to learn a particular course. A classic one of that is the simple stuff. Well, I say the simple stuff. When I say simple bits, I mean they're more like the one-day courses. Yeah. So things like if all of the lads have got to be first aid trained, which they would in our industry, sometimes you'll have a company shut down for a day and everyone's in from one company doing a first aid course. Other times it could just be some person who's a sole trader who needs to better himself or increase his qualification level to cover himself on insurance. Other times we have dribs and drabs from the same company coming through, depending on the level that they're at within the company to teach stuff. So, it's real varied, and I like that. You get all sorts. It's cool.
Brilliant.
It's just nice to meet different people all the time, I think.
Yeah, you are a people's person, you Phill. You are a people's person. Every time I see you, you're just chatting away, you're smiling.
Yeah, that's because you haven't met me enough. That does most people's heads in.
Okay. I won't be seeing you again after this then.
You'd soon get bored. You'd soon get bored of that, I'm sure.
Okay.
That's right. You've got to be a people person. If you're not a people person.
You can't shut me up. Once I start speaking to someone, I just go all in.
Yeah.
I'm
You've
like,
totally. You couldn't do this and hate people.
No.
Because you do get such a mixed bag. You get some.
It's patience as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you've got to have huge patience.
Some of them test. Yeah, some of them do test. Some people, bless them, you try so hard and they just don't get it. And you repeat and repeat and repeat. And I'll be honest, when I first started, that used to do me head in. I'd be like, what's the matter with you? Why can't you get this? And now I see that as a weird personal challenge. I'm like, if he doesn't get that, then I'm not putting it across properly, or I am missing something.
Yeah.
How can I be better at, not everybody learns at the same rate. Not everybody gets exactly what I say. So sometimes I am well aware that my point I'm putting across isn't getting into that person's head.
Yeah.
So weirdly, I've evolved to enjoy that challenge and think, right, how can I make him get this?
Yeah.
Or how can I make her understand what I'm trying to say? And I get a weird little kick out of that. It's quite good.
Do you?
When that light bulb goes.
That's good because you're helping someone.
Yeah. I quite like that. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Love that. For the audience, what courses do VMT offer?
Okay. There's a lot in kind of different areas. So the landscape stuff, you're looking at small tools courses that are everything to do with trimmers and hedge cutters and tools that people would be using on the ground, right up to the machines that they will use. And that can be something like mowers that move up to machinery that can trim banks, to remote controlled mowers that can kind of drive from a distance into difficult areas on steep banks that people wouldn't do. And so the machinery side of that is vast and constantly growing. The tree side, arboriculture and forestry, we do loads of different courses that would be classed as ground-based chainsaw. So that's kind of your maintenance, using a saw on the floor, learning to fell different sized trees. That then progresses usually onto your climbing. So you're learning about ropes and harnesses and how to move around the tree properly. That leads on to using chainsaws in trees, which leads to pruning and rigging qualifications. That will then go on to other specialist courses regarding different bits of tree work. And that is where my next stage is to go on to the machinery side of forestry more so. We already cover some of it. So things like wood chippers, the use of mutes, mobile elevated work platforms, cherry pickers, whatever you want to call them, that sort of thing. So we do a lot based around the use of those and using chainsaws in them. So yeah, for the land-based or landscaping industry, and the tree side of stuff is really where we're set up at the moment.
Yeah.
The two latest courses that we've just started offering, which is quite cool, I think. One of them is the Lola Inspectors training course. So
yeah, we're just going to say, tell me a bit about that because I don't know about this one.
I'm conscious that I might bore you a little bit with this, but Lola is a regulation which stands for Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations.
Yeah.
It's basically saying that you must monitor and check the equipment that you use that's classed as PPE, which stuff you dangle from or lifts things, climbing kit, ropes, harnesses, that sort of stuff. They must be inspected every 6 months by a competent person who would be classed as a Lola inspector. We now teach that course for somebody to be a Lola inspector who can go out and, if you like, it's a bit like doing an MOT on a car. You check everything is fine and falls within the safe use and is up to scratch and up to date and within its service life, and those things are checked, and you have to have that done to stay within the confines of your insurance company. And obviously, yes, to be a Lola inspector is something that more and more people are understanding and coming to do. So that's the latest one of the ones we offer. The other one is the PTI, which is the Professional Tree Inspectors course, which is 3 days of learning all kinds of things to do with defects of trees, things you should be looking for, from funguses to cracks and fissures and problems that trees may have, so that you can start your journey into consultancy and writing reports and kind of knowing what you're looking for so that no stone is left unturned when you are inspecting trees. And this could be used for you doing scoping of works, or writing reports, or offering advice, or quoting for trees. It just kind of opens your eyes to the other things you should be looking for. But I'm quite proud of them too. They're like a big thing that we can offer.
Have you started doing that now?
Yeah, so I teach the Lola Inspectors course, and Neil, who's one of the other instructors who works with us, is going through the process at the moment to do his PTI. That's almost done. But yeah, it's another course that we're offering already. So yeah, it's
fantastic.
All good. It's cool.
So is funding consistently available for people, or is it just
like the forestry funding that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, that it's not consistently available,
right?
But it was available some months ago. But due to its popularity and the uptake of how many people did it, there is going to be more funding released.
Brilliant.
I'll be honest, I should probably know the date off the top of my head, but I don't. But you can find that on the website.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you were to look up VMT Limited, you would find on our website there's a simple version of how you could apply for that funding. You can look on there. I haven't obviously attempted it myself, but I've been told by someone it's dead easy. It's just like a couple of forms to fill out, and the funding is offered to you. You can book onto Spaces, and there is a huge variety of courses that you can do from every aspect. So yeah, it's going to be released again. So yeah, follow that website and it will let you know when the funding is released and when you can grab some free money.
Oh, well, it's been brilliant. Thank you for today, Phill.
No problem.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much. It's been good. I like this sofa.
Yes.